When Elon Musk read the anonymous safety complaint from his Tesla factory, he made a shocking decision. He would disguise himself as an ordinary worker to uncover the truth. With a fake belly, gray wig, and the name Mike Reynolds, the billionaire CEO was about to discover secrets that would change his company forever. But first, he had to fool his own employees, and what happened next left everyone speechless. The morning sun bounced off the glass windows of Tesla's Austin headquarters as Elon Musk sat in his office, staring at his computer screen. His fingers drummed on the desk as he read through another batch of anonymous employee feedback from the Fremont factory. The words seemed to jump off the screen, each complaint more troubling than the last. Long hours wearing us down. Safety protocols being rushed. Management doesn't listen to our concerns. Elon leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. He'd built Tesla from the ground up, turning it from a wild dream into one of the world's most valuable car companies. But somewhere along the way, had he lost touch with the very people who made it all possible? His eyes caught on one particular message that made his stomach twist. There's a serious safety issue on line 3 that nobody's addressing. It's only a matter of time before someone gets hurt. That was it. He couldn't just sit here reading reports anymore. He needed to see things for himself. Elon picked up his phone and called his assistant, Linda. "Clear my schedule for the next 2 weeks," he said. "And get me Marcus Chen from the security team. I need his help with something unusual." An hour later, Marcus sat across from Elon, his eyebrows raised in surprise. "You want to do what?" "Go undercover," Elon repeated. "At the Fremont factory, as a regular assembly line worker." Marcus shook his head. "Sir, with all due respect, everyone knows what you look like. Your face is all over the news, social media. That's why I need your help," Elon interrupted. He'd already thought this through. "You used to work in Hollywood, right? Special effects?" Marcus nodded slowly. "Yes, but then you know people who can help me look different. Change my appearance enough that the workers won't recognize me." For a moment, Marcus just stared at him. Then a small smile crept across his face. "You're serious about this?" "Dead serious," Elon confirmed. "I need to know what's really happening on the factory floor, not the filtered version that makes it to my desk." 2 days later, Elon found himself in a small studio in Los Angeles, sitting in a makeup chair while Jessica Palmer, a veteran Hollywood makeup artist, studied his face. "We'll need to change your hair color," Jessica said, circling him. "Add some aging around the eyes, maybe a slight scar on your cheek. Different nose shape. And we'll give you a slight belly. Factory workers don't usually have personal trainers." She worked for hours, transforming the billionaire CEO into someone completely different. When she finally spun the chair around to face the mirror, Elon barely recognized himself. His usually neat hair was now salt and pepper gray, styled in a messy cut. His face looked older, weathered. A small scar ran along his left cheek, and his nose appeared broader. Even his posture had changed with the padding she'd added. "Meet Mike Reynolds," Jessica announced with pride. 52 years old, recently moved to California from Michigan after his auto plant closed down. Elon practiced his new voice, making it rougher, with a slight Midwestern accent. "Hi, I'm Mike. Nice to meet you." "Perfect," Jessica said. "Just remember, no fancy words, no talking about rockets or neural networks. You're a regular guy who needs this job." Back at his office, Elon, now Mike, went over the plan with Marcus one last time. "You've arranged everything with HR?" Marcus nodded. "They think they're hiring a temporary worker for a special assessment program. Only the head of HR knows the truth, and she signed an NDA. Your paperwork says you're Mike Reynolds, with 15 years of experience at a GM plant in Detroit. And the backstory? Divorced, 2 kids in college, moved to California for a fresh start. You're staying at a motel near the factory. We've actually booked the room in case anyone checks. Elon looked at the employee badge with Mike Reynolds' photo. It felt strange seeing his transformed face on official Tesla documentation. Your shift starts Monday at 6 a.m., Marcus continued. You'll be assigned to the Model Y assembly line, working under supervisor Sarah Chen. She's tough but fair, according to employee reviews. That weekend, Elon practiced being Mike. He wore jeans and work boots instead of designer clothes. He ate at diners instead of high-end restaurants. He even spent time at a local bar, listening to how regular workers talked about their jobs, their lives, their struggles. Sunday night, Elon stood in front of the mirror in his temporary motel room. The reflection showed Mike Reynolds, complete, with a slight beer belly and calloused hands, carefully created by Jessica's team. He'd memorized his backstory, practiced his accent, and prepared himself mentally for 2 weeks of hard physical labor. But as he set his alarm for 5 a.m., that anonymous message kept echoing in his mind. There's a serious safety issue on line 3. What would he find when he walked through those factory doors? Would the workers accept him? And most importantly, what was really happening at the factory he thought he knew so well? Elon turned off the light and lay down on the lumpy motel bed. Tomorrow, Mike Reynolds would clock in for his first shift at Tesla. Tomorrow, he'd finally see his company through the eyes of the people who built it, car by car, day after day. As he turned into sleep slowly came. One thought kept him awake. What if the problems were worse than he imagined? What if that safety issue was just the tip of the iceberg? The alarm would ring in 6 hours. Mike Reynolds had a job to do, and Elon Musk had a mystery to solve. The alarm buzzed at 5 a.m., jolting Mike Reynolds awake in the dim motel room. For a split second, Elon forgot where he was. Then reality hit. Today was his first day as a Tesla factory worker. He pulled on his stiff new work boots and grabbed the lunch pail he'd packed the night before. A bologna sandwich, apple, and bag of chips. Nothing fancy. Nothing that would make Mike Reynolds stand out. The Tesla Fremont factory loomed in the early morning darkness as Mike pulled into the employee parking lot in his rented Ford pickup. The massive building stretched for what seemed like miles, its white walls and red logo barely visible in the pre-dawn light. Mike joined the stream of workers heading toward the entrance. Everyone moved with purpose, coffee cups in hand, some chatting quietly, others lost in their own thoughts. He felt a flutter of nerves as he approached the security checkpoint. "First day?" the guard asked, scanning Mike's badge. "Yes, sir," Mike replied, remembering to use his gruffer voice. "Assembly line 3, building 4. Follow the yellow signs. Welcome to Tesla." Inside, the factory hummed with activity. Robots moved in precise patterns, forklifts beeped warnings, and the air smelled of metal and industrial lubricant. Mike followed the yellow signs until he reached a small office, where a woman with short black hair and sharp eyes stood reviewing paperwork. "Mike Reynolds?" she asked without looking up. "That's me. I'm Sarah Chen, your supervisor." She finally looked at him, her gaze assessing. "Says here you worked at GM for 15 years. Why'd you leave?" "Plant closed," Mike said simply. "Needed a fresh start." Sarah nodded. "Well, this isn't GM. We move fast here. Try to keep up." She handed him a bright yellow safety vest. "Put this on. Carlos will show you the ropes." Carlos, Martinez turned out to be a stocky man in his 40s, with graying temples and kind eyes. "Another refugee from Detroit, huh?" he said, shaking Mike's hand firmly. "Don't worry, we'll get you up to speed." The Model Y assembly line was a marvel of engineering, something Elon had seen countless times in reports and videos. But experiencing it from the ground level was entirely different. The noise was constant, the pace relentless. "Your station is here," Carlos shouted over the machinery. "You'll be installing door panels. Watch me first." Carlos moved with practiced efficiency, aligning the panel, securing it with precise movements, checking the fit. It looked simple enough. It wasn't Mike's. First attempt was a disaster. The panel wouldn't align properly, and he fumbled with the tools. The line kept moving, and suddenly he was behind, sweat beading on his forehead. "Easy there, Detroit," a young worker called out, stepping in to help. "You're thinking too much. Let your hands do the work." By the first break, Mike's arms ached, and his fingers were sore. He hadn't done physical labor like this in years. In the break room, he gratefully accepted a cup of coffee from Carlos. "Rough first day?" Carlos asked, sitting beside him. "Rougher than I expected," Mike admitted. "Give it time. Took me 3 weeks to stop dropping panels." Carlos grinned. "The young guys gave me hell for it." The break room filled with workers, conversations overlapping. Mike listened carefully, picking up fragments. Another double shift this week. "Productivity bonus better come through. Heard they're bringing in more automation." A tall man with James Wilson on his name tag sat down across from them. "New guys from Detroit? What's it like there now?" Mike shared the backstory. He'd memorized about plant closures and unemployment. The workers nodded sympathetically. They all knew someone affected by automation or outsourcing. "At least Tesla's still hiring," James said. "Though sometimes I wonder if they expect us to be robots too." Back on the line, Mike gradually found a rhythm. His movements were still clumsy compared to the veterans, but he managed to keep up. Sort of. During lunch, he sat with Carlos and met Maria Gonzalez, a petite woman who worked quality control. "You've got the CEO look today," Maria joked as Mike struggled with his sandwich wrapper. Mike's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" "All thumbs," she laughed. "Like you've never opened your own lunch before." Carlos chuckled. "Leave him alone, Maria. We were all new once." The afternoon shift dragged on. Mike's body protested every movement, but he pushed through, determined to understand what his workers experienced every day. Near the end of the shift, Sarah Chen appeared at his station. "Reynolds, a word." Mike's stomach tightened. Had she figured out who he really was? "Your numbers are low," she said bluntly. "I know it's your first day, but we have quotas to meet. Pick up the pace tomorrow, or we'll have to reconsider your position." "Yes, ma'am," Mike replied, genuinely chastened. As the shift ended, Carlos clapped him on the shoulder. "Don't let Sarah get to you. She's tough on everyone at first. You'll get better." Walking to his truck, every muscle screaming, Mike reflected on the day. He'd been yelled at, laughed at, and helped by people who had no idea they were working alongside their CEO. He'd seen the pride they took in their work, despite the challenges, but he'd also heard whispers about safety concerns, especially on the Line 3. Whatever was happening there, it hadn't been fixed yet. Tomorrow, he'd need to find a way to investigate without blowing his cover. As Mike Reynolds drove away from the factory, Elon Musk was already planning his next move. The first day had been humbling, exhausting, and eye-opening, and he still had 13 more days to uncover the truth. The mystery was just beginning. The second day began easier, though Mike's muscles still protested as he pulled on his work boots. He arrived early, determined to improve his performance and learn more about the factory's inner workings. The Fremont facility was coming alive as Mike walked through the massive doors. The morning shift trickled in, workers greeting each other with tired nods and half-hearted waves. The factory itself was a marvel, 470 acres of innovation that could produce over 500,000 vehicles a year. Carlos was already at their station when Mike arrived. "Early bird today? Detroit?" "Figured I'd get a head start," Mike replied, pulling on his safety vest. "Smart man. Sarah likes that." Carlos lowered his voice. "Between you and me, she's testing you. Wants to see if you'll stick around." As the line started moving, Mike found his rhythm faster than yesterday. His hands remembered the motions, and the door panels clicked into place with satisfying precision. During a brief lull, he glanced around, taking in the full scope of the operation. Robots worked alongside humans in perfect choreography. Giant mechanical arms lifted entire car bodies, while workers added the human touch, installing seats, checking alignments, running quality tests. It was beautiful and overwhelming at the same time. "Pretty impressive, right?" Carlos said, noticing Mike's wandering gaze. "Wait till you see the battery installation area. That's where the real magic happens." During the morning break, Mike ventured toward Line 3, where the safety issues supposedly existed. He pretended to be lost, asking directions from various workers. "Line 3? That's in Building 5, a young worker named Tommy said. "But I'd stay clear if I were you. Management's been weird about that area lately." "Weird how?" Mike asked casually. Tommy shrugged. "Just tense, like they're worried about something." Back at his station, Mike worked steadily while listening to the conversations around him. Workers discussed everything from their kids' soccer games to concerns about mandatory overtime. "Another Saturday shift announced," Maria grumbled as she passed by with her quality control clipboard. "That's 3 weekends in a row." "Production targets," James replied from his station. "Heard we're behind on Model Y deliveries." "Behind? Because they keep pushing us too hard," someone else muttered. "People make mistakes when they're tired." At lunch, Mike sat with a different group of workers, expanding his network of information. He met Angela Thompson, a single mother who worked the night shift in the paint shop. "Days are better for family life," she explained, "but nights pay more. And with 2 kids," she shrugged, letting the sentence hang. "Must be tough," Mike said. "We manage. Tesla's benefits help. But sometimes I wonder if the extra money is worth missing bedtime stories." The afternoon brought a team meeting about production quotas. Sarah Chen stood before a whiteboard covered in numbers and charts. "We're at 89% efficiency," she announced. "Corporate wants 95% by month's end." Groans rippled through the group. "I know it's a push," Sarah continued, "but other lines are hitting their targets. We can't be the weak link." After the meeting, Mike overheard 2 workers talking quietly. "Easy for them to set targets from their offices," one said. "They should try doing this for 12 hours straight." "Careful," his friend warned. "You know they monitor everything." Mike made a mental note. Were workers afraid to speak up about problems? Later that afternoon, an alarm suddenly blared. Everyone froze as red lights flashed. "Emergency stop!" Carlos shouted. "Something's wrong on line 2. Workers rushed to help. Mike followed, watching, as the team responded with practiced efficiency. A robotic arm had malfunctioned, nearly hitting a worker. The near miss left everyone shaken. "Third time this month," Mike heard someone whisper. "But it's always fixed by the next shift." As the cleanup continued, Mike slipped away toward Building 5. He needed to see line 3 for himself. The area was strangely quiet, with fewer workers than other sections. "You lost?" a voice called out. Mike turned to see a maintenance worker eyeing him suspiciously. "Looking for the bathroom," Mike lied. "Back the way you came. This area's restricted. Right now." "Restricted?" That was odd. Mike filed away this information as he returned to his station. The shift ended with Sarah calling him over. "Better today, Reynolds. Keep it up." "Thank you, ma'am. I'm trying." "Trying's not enough here. We need doing." She paused, studying him. "You seem different from our usual hires. Can't put my finger on it." Mike's heart raced, but he kept his expression neutral. "Just grateful for the opportunity." Sarah nodded slowly. "Well, keep your head down and your numbers up. That's what matters here." In the parking lot, Carlos caught up with him. "Hey, Detroit, some of us grab beers after shift on Thursdays. You should come." "I'd like that," Mike said, seeing an opportunity to learn more. "Good. You'll hear the real stories then. The stuff nobody puts in reports." Driving back to the motel, Mike processed everything he'd learned. The factory was efficient, but stressed. Workers were dedicated but worried. And Lean 3 remained a mystery, one that people seemed reluctant to discuss openly. He pulled out a small notebook and began writing. Overtime concerns affecting morale. Safety incidents more frequent than reported. Workers afraid to speak up. Line 3 restricted. Why? Production quotas versus safety balance. Ace. He finished his notes. One thing became clear. The problems at Tesla Fremont ran deeper than he'd imagined, and he'd barely scratched the surface. Tomorrow was Thursday. Beer with the workers might reveal what official channels couldn't. The truth was out there, hidden in plain sight on his own factory floor. But would he like what he found? The break room at lunch the next day felt different. Maybe it was because Mike knew these people better now, or maybe because the morning had been particularly grueling. Production was behind, and Sarah had been pushing everyone harder than usual. Mike settled at a table with his now familiar lunch, another bologna sandwich, as Carlos, Maria, and James joined him. The room buzzed with conversations, the sound of vending machines, and the occasional laugh. "So, Detroit," Maria said, unwrapping her homemade tamales. "You coming to Murphy's tonight?" "Murphy's?" Mike asked. "Local bar where we decompress," James explained. "But first, we need to survive Sarah's afternoon pep talk." As if on cue, Sarah entered the break room, clapping her hands. "Listen up. Corporate's breathing down our necks about the Model Y numbers. I need everyone at 110% this afternoon." Murmurs of discontent rippled through the room. "I know you're tired," Sarah continued, "but this is what we signed up for. Excellence has a price." After she left, the mood darkened. Maria poked at her food. "Excellence has a price," she mimicked. "Yeah, and we're the ones paying it." "Easy, Maria," Carlos warned, glancing around. "No, I'm tired of being quiet," Maria said, her voice rising slightly. "My daughter had her school play last night. Guess who missed it because of mandatory overtime?" James leaned in, lowering his voice. "My kid's been asking why Daddy's always tired. What do I tell her? That Tesla's stock price is more important than bedtime stories?" Mike listened intently as the floodgates opened. These weren't just complaints. They were stories of real sacrifice. "Remember Danny?" An older worker named Pete chimed in from the next table. "Worked line 3 for 2 years. Never missed a day. Then his wife got sick, and he asked for reduced hours. They let him go within a month." "Line 3," Mike said carefully. I heard that area's restricted now. The table went quiet. Workers exchanged glances. There was an incident, Carlos said finally. About a month ago. Nobody talks about it officially, but... But what? Mike pressed. But people got hurt, Maria whispered. The safety mechanisms failed. Management swept it under the rug. James nodded. They said it was minor and contained. But Tommy from maintenance told me the damage was extensive. They're still trying to figure out what went wrong. Mike felt his stomach tighten. This was worse than he'd imagined. Why doesn't someone report it? He asked. Pete laughed bitterly. To who? HR? They work for the company. OSHA? Last guy who called them got randomly selected for drug testing every week until he quit. Besides, Carlos added, most of us need this job. Tesla pays better than anyone else around here. You rock the boat, you sink with it. The conversation shifted as more workers shared their stories. Angela talked about choosing between car repairs and her kids' dental work. James mentioned his wife working 2 jobs to help cover their mortgage. It's not all bad, Carlos said, trying to lighten the mood. The work's steady, benefits are decent. And sometimes, when you see a finished car roll off the line, you feel proud, like you're part of something bigger. Yeah, Maria agreed grudgingly. When my neighbor bought a Model Y, I told her I probably installed her door panels. She was impressed. Mike noticed how complex their feelings were. Frustration mixed with pride, exhaustion balanced with purpose. These weren't just workers. They were people caught between their needs and their dreams. As lunch ended, Mike hung back with Carlos. About tonight at Murphy's. Yeah? Will people talk more freely there? About line 3? Carlos studied him for a moment. Maybe. Depends on how many beers they've had. Why so interested? Mike shrugged, trying to appear casual. Just want to know what I'm getting into. This place seems to have a lot of secrets. Every factory does, Carlos said. But yeah, Murphy's is where the truth comes out. Just remember, what's said at Murphy's stays at Murphy's. We look out for each other. The afternoon shift dragged on. Mike's mind raced with everything he'd learned. The safety cover-up on line 3 was serious. Exactly the kind of thing he'd come to investigate. But the human cost of his company's push for excellence hit him harder than expected. During the final break, Mike found himself alone with Maria in the break room. "Can I ask you something?" she said, studying him. "You don't seem like the typical factory guy." Mike tensed. "What do you mean?" "I don't know. The way you listen. Really listen. Most new guys just complain or brag. You absorb everything." "Maybe I'm just trying to understand," Mike said carefully. Maria nodded slowly. "Well, understand this. We're not numbers on a spreadsheet. We're people. Sometimes I think the big shots forget that." If only she knew who she was really talking to. As the shift ended, Mike felt the weight of his discoveries. The safety issues were real and dangerous. The human cost of his company's ambition was higher than any spreadsheet showed. And tonight, at Murphy's, he might finally learn the full truth about line 3. Walking to his truck, Mike saw Sarah Chen watching him from her office window. Her expression was unreadable, but something in her gaze made him uncomfortable. Did she suspect something? The parking lot emptied as workers headed home to their families or second jobs. Mike sat in his truck for a moment, looking at the massive Tesla logo on the building. He'd built this company to change the world. But at what cost to the people who made it possible? Tonight at Murphy's, after a few beers loosened tongues, he would hear the unfiltered truth. The question was he ready for it? As he started the engine, One thought echoed in his mind. How many more secrets was his factory hiding? The next morning arrived too quickly. Mike's body still ached from the previous days, but anticipation about Murphy's kept him alert. He needed to get through this shift without raising more suspicion. As he entered the factory, the usual morning chaos greeted him. But something felt different. Security seemed tighter, and several men in suits walked the floor. Unusual for a Friday. "Corporate visitors," Carlos muttered as Mike reached their station. "Always means trouble." "What kind of trouble?" Mike asked, pulling on his safety gear. "The kind where they watch everything we do and time our bathroom breaks." Sarah, Chen appeared, looking more stressed than usual. "Listen up. We have executives touring today. I want everyone on their best behavior. No mistakes, no delays." Mike's heart raced. Executives meant people who might recognize him, disguise or not. He kept his head down, focusing on his work. The morning passed slowly. Mike installed door panels with mechanical precision, avoiding eye contact with the suits walking by. Then, disaster struck. A heavy panel slipped from his grip, heading straight for the car's pristine surface. Time seemed to slow. If it hit, the damage would draw attention. Exactly what he couldn't afford. Suddenly, Carlos's hand shot out, catching the panel inches from impact. "Careful there, Detroit," he said loudly, then whispered, "You okay? You look pale." "Just tired," Mike managed, his heart pounding. "Well, wake up. That would have been a $2,000 mistake." The close call rattled Mike. He'd been so focused on his investigation that he'd nearly blown his cover through simple carelessness. During break, the workers huddled together, whispering about the executives. "Heard they're here about line 3, Tommy said. "Damage control." "Nah, it's about the quarterly numbers," James argued. "We're behind on deliveries." Maria shook her head. "Whatever it is, it's making Sarah crazy. She's been in and out of meetings all morning." Mike tried to stay invisible, but fate had other plans. As he returned from break, he rounded a corner and came face-to-face with Richard Collins, Tesla's VP of Manufacturing, someone who'd worked directly with Elon for years. "Excuse me?" Mike mumbled, trying to pass. Richard stopped, studying him. "Have we met before?" Mike's blood ran cold. "Don't think so, sir. I'm new." Richard's eyes narrowed. "You look familiar." "Got one of those faces," Mike said, forcing a laugh. "Everyone says I look like their cousin or something." Richard continued staring. "What's your name?" "Mike Reynolds, sir." "Where'd you work before?" "GM, Detroit. Plant closed down." Richard nodded slowly. "Well, Mike Reynolds from Detroit. Keep up the good work." He walked away, but Mike noticed him glancing back twice. Back at his station, Mike's hands shook slightly. That was too close. Richard was sharp. If anyone could see through the disguise, it was him. "You all right?" Carlos asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just nervous with all the bigwigs around," Mike replied. The afternoon brought more challenges. The executives seemed to hover near Mike's area, and he caught Richard pointing in his direction while talking to Sarah. Were they discussing him? Had Richard figured it out? During the final hours, Mike made another mistake, mixing up parts for two different models. Sarah caught it immediately. "Reynolds!" she barked. "What's wrong with you today? This isn't like you." "Sorry, ma'am. Just distracted." "Well, get undistracted. Fast." As the shift neared its end, Mike overheard a conversation that made his blood run cold. "That new guy, Reynolds," Richard was saying to Sarah. "Run another background check on him." "Sir? We already did one when he was hired." "Do it again. Something's off about him." Mike's mind raced. A deeper background check might reveal inconsistencies in his fake identity. He needed to warn Marcus, his security chief, immediately. The shift ended with Mike practically running to his truck. He waited until he was clear of the parking lot before calling Marcus on his burner phone. "We have a problem," Mike said. "Richard Collins is suspicious. He's ordering another background check." "I'll handle it," Marcus replied calmly. "The identity will hold. But maybe you should wrap this up soon." "I can't. Not yet. Tonight's Murphy's. I'm close to learning what really happened on line 3. Your call, boss. But be careful. Richard's not stupid." Mike sat in his truck, weighing his options. He could end the charade now, reveal himself, and demand answers. But would he get the truth that way? Or would everyone just tell him what they thought he wanted to hear? No, he needed to see this through. One more night. Murphy's would reveal the secrets his factory was hiding. As he drove to the motel to change, Mike noticed a car following him. It stayed several vehicles back, but took every turn he did. Was it Richard's doing? Or just paranoia? At the motel, Mike quickly showered and changed into casual clothes for Murphy's. The car that had followed him was gone, but the feeling of being watched remained. Looking in the mirror, he saw Mike Reynolds staring back, tired, worried, but determined. The disguise had held so far, but barely. Tonight would be crucial. His phone buzzed with a text from Carlos. "Murphy's at 7. Back room? Come thirsty for beer and truth." Mike took a deep breath. In a few hours, he'd know exactly what his company had been hiding. The question was, would the truth be worth the risk he'd taken? As he left for Murphy's, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The close calls today were warnings. His time as Mike Reynolds was running out. But first, he had a date with the truth. Murphy's bar sat, tucked between a laundromat and a taco shop, its neon sign flickering in the evening gloom. Mike pulled into the crowded parking lot, scanning for familiar cars. He spotted Carlos's pickup and James's sedan, but no sign of any vehicle that might belong to corporate security. Inside, the bar was exactly what he'd expected. Dim lighting, worn leather booths, and the smell of beer and fried food. Classic rock played from old speakers as factory workers unwound from their week. "Detroit!" Carlos waved from a back booth. "Over here!" Mike slid into the booth beside Maria and James. A pitcher of beer and several glasses already sat on the table. "Rough day with the suits around," James said, pouring Mike a glass. "Heard Collins was giving you the eye." "Yeah," Mike replied, taking a long drink. "Made me nervous." "Collins makes everyone nervous," Maria said. "He's got that look, like he can see right through you." The conversation flowed easily as more workers joined them. Pete from maintenance squeezed in, followed by Tommy and Angela, who'd switched to days temporarily after the second pitcher. Tongues began to loosen. "So," Mike ventured, "anyone want to tell me what really happened on line 3? The table went quiet. Workers exchanged glances. "You really want to know?" Pete asked, leaning forward. "Because once you know, you can't unknow." Mike nodded. "I need to understand what I'm working with." Pete took a deep breath. It was a month ago. Night shift. The safety sensors that detect worker proximity to the robotic arms, they failed. But not randomly. They'd been overridden. Overridden? Mike felt his stomach drop. By who? "Management," Angela said quietly. "To speed up production. The sensors were slowing things down, so they disabled them temporarily." 3 people got hurt, Carlos added. "Could have been killed. Roberto still can't use his left arm properly." Mike's head spun. This was worse than he'd imagined. And nobody reported this? To who? James laughed bitterly. The same management that caused it? They paid off the injured workers, made them sign NDAs. But there's more, Tommy said, glancing around nervously. The override, it's still active. They never fixed it. Mike felt sick. His company, the one he'd built to make the world better, was putting workers at risk to meet production goals. Why hasn't anyone? Mike started. Because we need these jobs, Maria interrupted. You think other places pay this well? Have these benefits? We're trapped between feeding our families and risking our lives. The conversation was interrupted by Sarah Chen walking into the bar. The workers immediately went silent. Don't stop. Talking on my account, she said, sliding into their booth. Room for one more? The tension was palpable. Sarah never socialized with the line workers. Actually, she continued, looking directly at Mike, I came to talk to Reynolds here. Mike's heart pounded. Me? Yeah. Collins wants to see you. Tonight. Tonight? It's after hours. He's still at the factory. Says it's important. Sarah's expression was unreadable. I'd go if I were you. After Sarah left, the mood had shifted. The easy camaraderie was gone. You better go, Carlos said. When Collins calls, you answer. Mike stood, his mind racing. This could be the end of his cover. Thanks for the drinks, everyone. Be careful, Detroit, Maria called after him. Something's not right. The drive back to the factory felt surreal. The parking lot was nearly empty, security lights casting long shadows. Mike parked and walked to the main entrance, where a security guard waited. Mr. Reynolds? Mr. Collins is expecting you. Building 5. Building 5, where Line 3 was located. Mike's footsteps echoed in the empty corridors. The factory felt different at night, quieter, almost haunted. He reached Building 5 and found Richard Collins standing by Line 3. Mr. Reynolds, Richard said without turning around. Or should I call you something else? Mike's blood ran cold. Sir? Richard turned, holding up a tablet. Interesting thing about background checks. Sometimes they reveal patterns. He showed Mike the screen, side-by-side comparisons of Mike, Reynolds's documentation and subtle inconsistencies. I don't understand, Mike tried. Drop the act. Richard's voice was firm but not angry. I've worked with Elon Musk for 8 years. You think I wouldn't recognize him, even with makeup and a fake belly? Mike, Elon, stood silent for a moment, then slowly straightened his posture. When did you know? I suspected this afternoon. The way you looked at the equipment, the tiny mannerisms. I had IT run deeper analytics on your file. The patterns matched. Elon pulled off his fake glasses. And now, Richard surprised him by smiling. Now, I show you what you came to see. He walked to a control panel. The safety override, it's real, but not what you think. People got hurt, Richard. 3 workers were injured, yes, but not because we disabled safety protocols. Richard pulled up security footage. Watch. The video showed the incident. The safety systems were active, but a power surge caused them to fail momentarily. The injuries happened in those few seconds. We've been investigating for weeks, Richard explained. The override story? That's workers assuming the worst because we couldn't explain the failure yet. Why the secrecy? The restricted access? Because we found something bigger. Richard's expression darkened. The power surge wasn't accidental. Someone sabotaged our systems. Elon stared at him. Sabotage? Industrial espionage. We think a competitor planted someone inside. We've been running a quiet investigation. And the NDAs? The payoffs? Standard? Procedure for workplace injuries, plus extra to keep things quiet while we investigate. We didn't want the saboteur to know we were on to them. Elon processed this revelation. Everything he'd heard, all the anger and fear, it stemmed from miscommunication and secrecy, not malice. The workers deserve to know the truth, Elon said, finally. Agreed. But we needed to find the saboteur first. Richard paused. Actually, your undercover work might have helped. The patterns in worker complaints, the rumors, they've helped us narrow down suspects. The night had certainly brought surprises, just not the ones Elon expected. The truth was complicated, a mix of genuine safety concerns, communication failures, and hidden threats. But one thing was clear. His workers deserved better. Better communication, better transparency, better trust. Tomorrow would bring changes. Big ones. The next morning, Elon arrived at the factory as Mike Reynolds one last time. Richard had agreed to let him finish the day undercover, while security quietly closed in on their sabotage suspect. "Morning, Detroit," Carlos greeted him. "You look rough. Collins keep you late?" "Something like that," Mike replied, pulling on his safety vest. The factory floor buzzed with unusual energy. Word had spread about Mike's late-night summons, and speculation ran wild. "Heard Collins grilled you for hours," James whispered as they started their shift. "They're cracking down after those Line 3 rumors," Maria added. Mike worked quietly, observing his co-workers with new eyes. These people deserved to know the truth, but the investigation needed to conclude first. Around 10 a.m., an alarm suddenly pierced the air. "This wasn't a drill. Emergency shutdown!" Sarah Chen's voice boomed over the intercom. "All workers to safety zones immediately!" Chaos erupted as workers scrambled to their designated areas. Mike followed Carlos, but something caught his eye. A worker near Line 2 wasn't moving to safety. Instead, he was typing furiously on a control panel. "Carlos, look!" Mike pointed. The worker, someone Mike vaguely recognized from the paint shop, was clearly tampering with the system. Without thinking, Mike broke from the safety line and ran toward him. "Hey! Stop!" Mike shouted. The saboteur looked up, panicked, and bolted toward the emergency exit. Mike gave chase, his fake belly bouncing awkwardly as he ran. "Security!" Mike yelled, forgetting to use his Detroit accent. "Stop that man!" The saboteur crashed through a side door just as security guards appeared. They tackled him to the ground while Mike caught his breath. Richard Collins materialized beside him. "Good catch. That's our guy." What was he doing? Mike panted. Trying to trigger another accident. Would have blamed it on the safety systems again. As security led the saboteur away, Mike noticed all his co-workers staring at him. In the heat of the moment, his disguise had slipped. He'd dropped his accent, moved with authority, commanded security like a CEO. Sarah Chen approached, her expression a mix of confusion and dawning realization. "Reynolds, what's going on?" Mike looked at Richard, who nodded. It was time. "Everyone, gather around," Mike called out, his normal voice returning. He reached up and began removing his disguise. The gray wig, the fake scar, the padding. Gasps echoed through the factory as Elon Musk emerged from Mike Reynolds. "Holy..." Carlos couldn't finish the sentence. "It's really him," Maria whispered. Last week," Elon began, "I've worked alongside you as Mike Reynolds. I came here because I'd heard concerning reports about safety and working conditions. I needed to see the truth for myself." The workers stood in stunned silence. "What I found," Elon continued, "was dedication, skill, and people who care deeply about their work despite challenging conditions. I also found miscommunication, fear, and a dangerous lack of transparency. He explained about the sabotage, the real cause of the Line 3 incident, and how secrecy had led to rumors and distrust. The safety systems weren't overridden by management, he said. They were sabotaged by a competitor trying to damage our reputation. But the fact that you all believed management capable of such actions? That's on me. I've failed to create an environment of trust. Elon turned to specific workers. Maria, you shouldn't have to miss your daughter's school plays. James, you should be home for bedtime stories. Angela, no one should choose between car repairs and dental work. He outlined immediate changes: transparent incident reporting, worker, safety committees with real power, flexible scheduling options, and a significant raise in base pay. But most importantly, Elon said, I'm establishing a direct line of communication. No more filtered reports. No more anonymous complaints that go nowhere. You'll have my personal guarantee that your voices will be heard. The silence stretched for a moment. Then Carlos stepped forward. So, all this time, Detroit was actually Elon Musk? Elon smiled. Guilty as charged. And you really installed door panels? Badly, I might add? Laughter rippled through the crowd, breaking the tension. Hey, I got better, Elon protested. Slightly. Maria raised her hand. What happens now? Do we pretend this never happened? No, Elon said firmly. This happened, and it needed to happen. You've taught me more in a week than a year of reports could. The question is, will you help me make this factory better? A murmur of agreement swept through the workers. Sarah Chen stepped forward. I have to ask, how did I not recognize you? Hollywood makeup artists are very good, Elon admitted. Plus, people see what they expect to see. No one expects the CEO to be struggling with door panels. As the crowd began to disperse, each worker processing the revelation differently, Elon called out one more thing. Oh, and Carlos? Thank you for catching that panel yesterday. You saved me from a very expensive mistake. Carlos grinned. Anytime, boss. Anytime. The rest of the day was surreal. Workers approached Elon with questions, suggestions, and sometimes just to shake his hand. The atmosphere had transformed from suspicion to cautious optimism. By shifts, news had spread throughout the factory. Workers from other shifts came to see if the rumors were true. Elon spent hours talking with employees, listening to their stories, and making notes. As the sun set over the Fremont factory, Elon stood, with Richard Collins, watching the shift change. Think it worked? Richard asked. The undercover part? Yes, but the real work starts now. We need to rebuild trust, and that takes time. The workers seem receptive. They're giving us a chance, Elon corrected. We can't waste it. A group of workers passed by and one called out, See you Monday, Mike, Elon laughed. See you Monday. As he walked to his car, his actual Tesla this time, Elon reflected on the week. He'd come looking for safety violations and found something more valuable: the truth about his company's culture and the incredible people who made it run. The safety incident had been resolved, but the real danger had been the growing disconnect between management and workers. That was the true crisis, and now he had a chance to fix it. Tomorrow would indeed bring changes, big ones, and this time, everyone would be part of the solution. Monday morning at the Tesla Fremont factory felt different. Workers arrived to find coffee and pastries in the break room, courtesy of their CEO. But more importantly, they found Elon Musk himself, dressed in jeans and a Tesla t-shirt, ready to work alongside them again, this time as himself. Morning. Everyone! Elon greeted the arriving shift. I thought we'd start fresh. Carlos was the first to approach. So, do we call you Elon now, or stick with Detroit? Elon's fine, he laughed. Though I'll answer to Detroit, if you prefer. The morning began with an all-hands meeting in the main assembly area. Workers from all shifts crowded in, even those who weren't scheduled to work. I want to share something with you, Elon began, projecting a video onto a large screen. It showed security footage of the saboteur's attempts to damage equipment, followed by his confession after being caught. This man worked for a competitor, Elon explained. He was paid to create safety incidents that would damage our reputation and slow production. He's the reason 3 of our colleagues were injured on line 3. Murmurs of anger rippled through the crowd. But, Elon continued, his success in creating distrust reveals our failure in communication. Starting today, that changes. He unveiled a new digital platform where workers could report concerns directly to management, with guaranteed response times. Anonymous reporting would still be available, but with better tracking and follow-up. Now, I want to talk about something more personal, Elon said, his voice softening. He called Carlos forward. Carlos Martinez has worked here for 5 years. Last week, he mentioned wanting to advance in the company but feeling stuck on the line. Carlos, I'm promoting you to shift supervisor, effective immediately. Carlos stood speechless as his co-workers applauded. Maria Gonzalez, Elon continued. You've missed too many of your daughter's important moments. We're implementing flexible scheduling. You choose the shifts that work for your family. One by one, Elon addressed specific concerns he'd heard during his undercover week. Each announcement was met with growing enthusiasm from the workers. And for everyone, he concluded, a 15% raise across the board, plus improved health benefits. This isn't a reward for my deception. It's an acknowledgement of your true value to this company. After the meeting, Elon spent the day on the factory floor. But differently than before, he moved between stations, asking questions, taking notes, and most importantly, listening. At lunch, he sat with different groups, continuing conversations started during his week as Mike Reynolds. The dynamic had shifted. Workers spoke more, freely, mixing humor with honest feedback. You know, James said over sandwiches, I was suspicious of Mike Reynolds from day one. Really? Elon raised an eyebrow. Yeah, you were too interested in everything. Most new guys just complain about the work. Angela from the night shift joined them. I thought you were a corporate spy. Guess I was half right. The afternoon brought the first test of the new transparency policy. A minor equipment malfunction on line 2 triggered the safety protocol. Instead of hushed rumors, workers received immediate communication about what happened and how it was being addressed. Sarah Chen, adapting to the new reality, handled the EET situation with remarkable openness. Small hydraulic leak, she announced. Maintenance is on it. Estimated downtime, 30 minutes. Questions? Workers actually asked questions, and Sarah answered them. The difference was striking. Near the end of the shift, Elon gathered with the newly formed Worker Safety Committee, a diverse group including Carlos, Maria, and representatives from each shift. I want your honest input on everything, Elon told them. Safety protocols, scheduling, equipment needs. You're my eyes and ears on the ground. Pete from maintenance spoke up. First suggestion, regular safety equipment audits by line workers, not just maintenance. Done, Elon agreed. What else? The suggestions flowed. Better break room facilities, clearer communication during shift changes, improved training for new hires. Elon took notes on everything. As the day wound down, Carlos pulled Elon aside. "Can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why did you really do it? The undercover thing?" Elon considered the question. "Because I forgot something important. I forgot that Tesla isn't just about cars or technology or stock prices. It's about people. You reminded me of that." "Well," Carlos grinned, "next time. You want to remember something? Maybe just ask instead of wearing a fake belly for a week?" "Deal," Elon laughed. The week progressed with visible changes. The new communication platform launched, with workers actively using it. The flexible scheduling system rolled out, allowing parents like Maria to balance work and family better. The safety committee conducted their first audit, finding and fixing several minor issues before they became problems. But the most significant change was in the atmosphere. The US versus them mentality was fading, replaced by a sense of shared purpose. On Friday, Elon called another all-hands meeting to review the week's progress. "In 5 days," he reported, "we've received 47 suggestions through the new platform. We've implemented 32 of them. Safety incident reports are up 200%, not because more incidents are happening, but because people feel safe reporting them." He displayed productivity charts. "And despite all these changes, or maybe because of them, our efficiency has increased by 8%. The workers cheered. They had proven that trust and transparency didn't hurt productivity. They enhanced it. "I learned something as Mike Reynolds," Elon concluded. "I learned that the strength of Tesla isn't in its technology or its brand. It's in you, your dedication, your innovation, your commitment to excellence, even when management seemed not to care." He paused, looking around the room. "I promise you this, I will never forget that lesson again. And I'll be back on this floor regularly. Not in disguise, but as myself, working alongside you." As the meeting ended, workers approached Elon with ideas, concerns, and sometimes just gratitude. The wall between CEO and employees was crumbling, replaced by mutual respect and understanding. Maria summed it up best as she prepared to leave for her daughter's soccer game, something she could now attend thanks to the new scheduling. "You know what's changed the most? We feel heard. That's worth more than any raise." The turning point had arrived. Tesla Fremont wasn't just a factory anymore. It was a community. And everyone, from the newest hire to the CEO, was invested in its success. 2 weeks after the changes began, Tesla's Fremont factory hosted its first ever Family Day. Workers brought their spouses, children, and parents to see where they spent their days. The factory floor, usually filled with industrial noise, now echoed with children's laughter and excited chatter. Elon stood near the entrance, greeting families, personally. He wore a name tag that read, "Elon, formerly Detroit," a joke that had become a badge of honor among the workers. "Mr. Musk?" Maria's 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, ran up to him. "Mommy says you pretended to be a worker." "Why?" Elon knelt to her level. "Sometimes, to understand something, you need to see it through different eyes. I wanted to see the factory the way your mom does." Sophia considered this. "Did you learn stuff?" "I learned everything." Elon smiled. The family day included factory tours, demonstrations, and a special presentation. Workers proudly showed their families their stations, explaining their roles in building the future of transportation. Carlos, now wearing his supervisor badge, led a group through the assembly line. "This is where Elon, almost dropped a $2,000 door panel," he announced, drawing laughter from the crowd. In the main assembly area, a stage had been set up for the presentation. As families gathered, Elon took the microphone. Today isn't just about showing your families where you work, he began. It's about revealing something bigger. He clicked a remote, and the screen behind him lit up. 3 weeks ago, I went undercover in this factory. What I discovered changed. Everything, not just for me, but for our entire company. The presentation showed highlights from his week as Mike Reynolds, security footage of his clumsy first day, photos of him in disguise, and most importantly, the moment he caught the saboteur. But the real story isn't about catching a corporate spy, Elon continued. It's about what I learned from all of you. He showed charts comparing the factory's performance before and after the changes. Productivity was up 15%, safety incidents down 60%, and employee satisfaction had skyrocketed. These numbers tell a story, Elon said, but not the whole story. He invited several workers to join him on stage. Maria stepped forward first. 3 weeks ago, I was angry. I missed my daughter's school play because of mandatory overtime. Today, I'm here with my family, and I haven't missed a single soccer game since the flexible scheduling started. James spoke next. I thought management didn't care about us. Now, I'm part of the safety committee, and my suggestions actually get implemented. Last week, we fixed a ventilation issue I'd been complaining about for months. Angela shared her story. Night shift used to feel invisible. Now, we have the same voice as everyone else. And the child care subsidy means I can afford quality care for my kids while I work. One by one, workers shared how the changes had affected their lives. The audience listened, many nodding in recognition of their own experiences. Then Elon revealed the biggest surprise. Everything that's happened here is just the beginning. Based on what we've learned, I'm implementing these changes across all Tesla facilities worldwide. The crowd erupted in applause. But there's more, Elon continued. I want to share something that even most of you don't know yet. He pulled up a new slide showing architectural plans. This is the design for the Tesla Learning Center, which will be built right here in Fremont. Free education and training for all employees and their families. Technical courses, leadership development, even college credit programs. The announcement was met with stunned silence, then thunderous applause. The truth I discovered, Elon said, his voice emotional, is that our greatest innovation isn't our cars or our technology. It's you, the people who make it all possible. You deserve every opportunity to grow, learn, and advance. He paused, looking around the room. When I started Tesla, I wanted to change the world. I forgot that changing the world starts with taking care of the people who are helping you do it. The presentation ended with a video compilation of worker testimonials, not just from Fremont, but from Tesla facilities worldwide who had heard about the changes and were eagerly awaiting their implementation. As families mingled afterward, enjoying food trucks and activities, Richard Collins found Elon watching the scene with satisfaction. You know, Richard said, when I first suspected it was you under that disguise, I thought about exposing you immediately. Why didn't you? Elon asked. Because I saw something in Mike Reynolds that I hadn't seen in Elon Musk for a while. Genuine curiosity about our workers' lives. I figured that was worth preserving. Sarah Chen joined them. I have a confession too. I suspected something was off about Mike Reynolds from day 2. Really? Elon was surprised. You worked too hard to understand everything. Most new hires just try to survive. But I'm glad I didn't dig deeper. What you learned needed to be learned your way. As the sun set over the Fremont factory, casting long shadows across the parking lot, workers and their families began heading home. Many stopped to shake Elon's hand or share one more story. Carlos approached with his family. "You know, Detroit, you weren't half bad at installing door panels by the end." "High praise from the master," Elon laughed. "Just remember," Carlos added, "if this CEO thing doesn't work out, you've got a job on my line anytime." The last to leave was Maria with Sophia. The little girl tugged on Elon's sleeve. "Mr. Musk, thank you for giving my mommy more time with me." In that moment, Elon knew that everything, the deception, the sore muscles, the close calls, had been worth it. He had set out to uncover safety violations and ended up discovering something far more valuable: the human heart of his company. As the factory lights dimmed and security began their evening rounds, Elon stood alone in the parking lot, looking at the building with new eyes. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, more problems to solve, more innovations to pursue. But now he would face them differently. Not from an office or a boardroom, but alongside the people who made Tesla more than just a company. The undercover CEO had learned his lesson. The real reveal wasn't his identity. It was the truth about what made Tesla great. 6 months later, the Tesla Fremont factory hummed with a different energy. The changes that began with Elon's undercover week had blossomed into a complete cultural transformation. The morning shift arrived to find Elon already on the floor, as he was at least once a week now. No disguise, no preteens. Just the CEO working alongside his team. "Morning, Detroit," Carlos called out, the nickname now a term of endearment rather than deception. "Morning, Supervisor," Elon replied, grinning. Carlos had excelled in his new role, implementing innovative solutions that improved efficiency while prioritizing worker safety. The factory floor showed visible changes. New break areas offered comfortable seating and healthy food options. Digital displays showed real-time safety metrics and production goals. Most importantly, workers moved with confidence, knowing their voices mattered. At the weekly safety committee meeting, Maria presented her latest findings. "Zero safety incidents this month," she announced proudly. "And the new training program has reduced near misses by 75%. The committee, once a token gesture, now drove real change. Their recommendations had led to equipment upgrades, better protective gear, and clearer emergency protocols. Later that morning, Elon visited the newly opened Tesla Learning Center. Angela was there, taking an advanced robotics course during her off hours. "How's the class?" Elon asked. "Amazing," Angela beamed. "I'm actually applying for the engineering advancement program next month." Who would have thought the night shift single mom would be designing the robots, instead of just working alongside them? The Learning Center had become a hub of opportunity. Workers studied everything from basic computer skills to advanced engineering. Some earned college credits, while others developed leadership skills that led to promotions. At lunch, Elon sat with a group of new hires, sharing the story of his undercover experience. They listened with fascination, finding it hard to believe their CEO had once struggled with door panel installations. "The lesson wasn't just for me," Elon explained. "It was for everyone. We learned that transparency and trust aren't just nice ideas. They're essential for success." The afternoon brought a special announcement. Richard Collins gathered everyone in the main assembly area. "I have news," he began. "Based on the success of our transformation here at Fremont, we've been selected as the model facility for Tesla worldwide. Teams from our other factories will be coming here to learn from you." The workers cheered. They had gone from feeling overlooked to becoming the standard bearers for the entire company. But the biggest moment came when Elon revealed the resolution to the original safety concern that had prompted his undercover mission. "Remember the safety issue on line 3?" he asked the assembled workers. The investigation didn't just lead to catching one saboteur. It uncovered a network of industrial espionage affecting multiple car manufacturers. He explained how their experience had led to industry-wide improvements in security and safety protocols. The incident that had once symbolized distrust now represented cooperation and progress. "We didn't just fix our problem," Elon continued. "We helped fix an industry problem, and it started with workers brave enough to speak up, even when they thought no one was listening." As the day wound down, Elon made his rounds, personally thanking workers he'd grown to know and respect. Each conversation reinforced the bonds. Built during his week as Mike Reynolds, Sarah Chen found him near line 3, where it all began. "You know," she said, "I used to think leadership meant keeping distance from the workers. You taught me the opposite." "We taught each other," Elon corrected. "That's the point." The shift change brought a familiar sight. Workers greeting each other, sharing updates, working together seamlessly. But now, the conversations included discussions about career advancement, educational opportunities, and ideas for improvement. James approached with his daughter, who was visiting for the first time. "Mr. Musk, this is Emily. Emily, this is the man who made sure Daddy could be home for bedtime." Emily, all of 6 years old, looked up at Elon. "Thank you for letting my daddy tell me stories at night." In the parking lot, as workers headed home to their families, Elon reflected on the journey. The investigation that started with an anonymous complaint about safety had revealed something far more significant: the need for human connection in an increasingly automated world. The saboteur had been caught, tried, and convicted. The safety systems had been upgraded and were now the industry standard. Production numbers had reached record highs. But these achievements paled in comparison to the human transformation. Workers who once felt like cogs in a machine now saw themselves as valuable contributors to a greater mission. Managers who once ruled through fear now led through inspiration. And a CEO who once saw the factory floor as a series of metrics now understood it as a community of dreams and aspirations. As Elon prepared to leave, he passed the spot where he'd first dropped that door panel as Mike Reynolds. A small plaque had been installed there by the workers, "Where Detroit learned to install doors, and where we all learned to listen." The Tesla Fremont factory had become more than a manufacturing facility. It was proof that when leaders truly listen and workers truly engage, extraordinary things happen. The transformation that began with a CEO in disguise had grown into something larger, a new model for how companies could operate in the 21st century. And it all started with one simple decision: to walk a mile in someone else's work boots. As he drove away, Elon knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges. But now, he faced them with 10,000 partners instead of 10,000 employees. The undercover mission was over, but the real work, building a company worthy of its people, would never end. That was the end of this incredible story about how Elon Musk went undercover at his own Tesla factory and discovered the true value of listening to his workers. Where are you listening from today? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story about leadership, trust, and transformation, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. We share fascinating stories like this one every week that will touch your heart and open your mind. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family. Let's spread kindness and awareness together. Your support helps us bring more meaningful stories to people around the world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.